What if you could build $1 million business without hiring anyone? In this episode, we're joined by Jon Cheney, the entrepreneur who used AI to build an 8-figure company in just 6 months. He's here to share with us how solopreneurs can scale to 7 figures fast by replacing teams with tech. So today we're talking about how to scale a solo business to 1 million using AI. Jon, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Ken. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, man. Jon, you are currently the chief AI officer. You've been a digital strategist. You're a multi-time entrepreneur who's built businesses at speed using automation, lean systems, and smart integration. You're known for this. You're known to building an 8-figure AI venture in under 6 months. And I just want to talk to you today, man. You're living proof of what people are thinking about and what this podcast is all about, man. So I'm really excited to jump in today and navigate these questions that a lot of people are having about how do you actually build a business using AI?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And I'm known about it now. A year ago, I wasn't known for this, right? This is something that's kind of new. I've loved AI for a while now and been very curious. I think that's why I've gotten good at it. But I have been an entrepreneur for a long time. And I do enjoy that. I love being an entrepreneur. I love investing in entrepreneurs at the right time. AI has changed investing quite a bit. We can talk about that for sure. But I also love working with entrepreneurs and training entrepreneurs and just encouraging them to go make stuff happen. Right. So anyway, excited to talk through all of this today with you.
Man, before we jump in, things that most people wouldn't know before you had this venture is that you weren't a business owner and you've exited that successfully. And some people might think, man, I'm just going to sit back, relax. I've made it. But you decided, no, man, I'm going to jump into this and I want to try this. What made you decide, hey, I'm going to go do this?
You know what? Business is just fun. It's kind of like, I know this might sound a little bit weird, but it's kind of like a video game to me. I don't have tons of time for video games these days, but occasionally I'll sit down and play something, especially if my kids are saying, "Hey, Dad, come play Fortnite with us," or come, I don't know, whatever game it is. They always want me to play Roblox, and I'm like, I don't really like that. But anyway, when I do get into a game, I personally think a lot of people are driven by levels and then the achievements and like accomplishing something. And anyway, and so when I get into an idea, I say, okay, this is cool. All right, first step, I need to make this idea somehow real enough that I can show it to somebody, right? And okay, now I've done that. Now, okay, is this actually real? Does this actually provide value? The next level is, can I get someone to pay me money, get my first dollar? And then, okay, that's cool. Can I do it again? Right? Great. Can I do it 10 times? Can I do it 100 times? Right? Can I get to 10,000? Can I get to 100,000? Can I get to whatever? Right? And so, and I'm constantly focusing on how do I adjust and how do I adjust? And by the way, I never get it right the first time. Right. I try something. I'm like, oh, that didn't work. So let's change, let's pivot, let's adjust. And so I'm just weaving through this maze, just like a game or something, right? You're failing, you're dying when you hit the hard boss and whatever, and you got to go back and try it again and you learn the moves, whatever it is. Right. And kind of view it like that. So it's just fun to me. Right. And so why am I going to stop doing something that's fun? So yeah, it doesn't matter that I've done it before and, I'm doing it now. And if I were to sell this thing in a couple of years, because it just takes off in a big way, I'm going to be like, okay, what's the next game?
I love that mindset because I think for a lot of guys and men in particular right now, there's some that are just stuck in life, right? Where they have no purpose. They're not driving anywhere. And sorry to make this super existential so fast, but like
But it
what I
is.
love is that you took your God-given abilities and gifts and said, hey, I'm going to pursue something and make impact to our society. And that's through business, right? And all those skill sets you've said, hey, I'm going to do in this business. I'm going to do here. I'm just going to keep moving. Whereas other guys are just stuck playing video games and they're just addicted to it. You've actually taken that same kind of drive and said, I'm going to build something. And
Well,
even you mentioned Roblox, right?
here's the thing. I think that humans find their greatest joy when they're creating, right?
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
find your greatest joy, Ken, when you're scrolling on Instagram?
No, not at all. So it feels
No.
superficial, right? You're like, oh, I should be
Totally.
doing something else.
Right. Or when you're playing a video game. Is it fun? Sure. Is scrolling Instagram enjoyable? Yeah. It has its place. I'm not saying those things are bad by any means, right? I do it. I do all that stuff. I'll sit down, I'll watch The Office, I'll watch Friends, I'll watch the new, what is it called? The Paper, right? That's the sequel to The
Yeah.
Office. I actually really enjoyed that. Yeah, I do things that I'm not always creating, right? But
Yeah.
I just can't imagine a life where I'm not creating, right? I mean, if you can see behind me, I've got pianos and studios, and I've got, I'm a musician, I'm a creator. I love to post every single day on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, sometimes on TikTok, and always on LinkedIn, right? Because I really do focus on the business world. And I try to come out with one new album every single year that I publish to, it's on the Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. And I'm writing a couple books right now. And obviously I'm working on my businesses, and I'm creating there. I'm creating jobs. I'm creating memories. Heck, I've even created 4 humans, right? I have 4 kids, and all of those processes of creation and then enjoying the fruits of those creations, that is where I find joy. And I think that's where everyone finds joy. And so if people are stuck, it's because they're not creating, right? They're just consuming. Flip that around, your life will change real fast.
Oh yeah. Once you start creating stuff, you're like, ooh, you can't stop thinking about it because it's fun. Like you have 4 kids, I have a fifth on the way, right? I'm always thinking about my kids and like, how do I help grow them? How do I help build them? How do I help train them for the next thing? It's a lot of fun. It's hard, right? Like so is
Totally.
entrepreneurship, and we'll get
That's why
into
it's
it. It's
fun, I think.
hard. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like there's this built-in like leveling up, like you were talking about earlier.
Exactly. It's a
So
game.
let's jump into it, right? Because right now you are in your new game. You've built an 8-figure AI business in just 6 months. What were the first 3 moves that set that momentum in motion so people could kind of glean wisdom from that?
Yeah. You know, starting is always the hardest, right? One of the things I think that AI has changed is how easy it is to start something. For example, I've raised a lot of money, right? I in my couple companies ago, I raised almost 13 million or something like 12.7 or something like that. And one of the things I had to do every time was I had to put together a pitch deck, right? And I did that over 8 years. And so I had 100 different pitch decks, right? And I always hated like, oh, I need to update this. There's some new things. I got to do this, whatever. With AI now, I can open up something like Gamma, and I just say, hey, build me a deck on this with these features and this thing. And I need it to be 8 slides. I want you to focus on this. Boom, go. And all I have to do is write 3 or 4 sentences. Boom. I've got my
Yeah.
first draft. Now it's not done, right? But it's started. The hard thing is starting, right? And so I can now whip out that PowerPoint super fast and I've got what I need. The same applies now to software, which is crazy, right? A year ago, I couldn't have said that, right? 2 years ago, I certainly couldn't have said that. 5 years ago, when I was in the middle of my, a couple startups ago, and I've spent, $12 million of OPM, other people's money. It's we're in a whole new world. I had to spend other people's money and raise money because I didn't have a software background and I wanted to do something that required software. And even if you're a hair salon, you still need, a website. You need a way to, you need software to take care of your clients. You need to keep track of things, whatever, right? And so obviously you can go and you can buy things, you could pay other people to do that. But now with AI, you just, hey, I need a website for a hair salon with scheduling capabilities. 10 minutes later, you've got your first draft. Now you got to go and work on it and stuff. But a couple hours later, you could be done with that. You could be ready to open your hair salon with all of your own custom branding, this nice, wonderful thing, set up your LLC, get a bank account, you're in business. Now, I had an idea, and I think the idea stage is actually maybe more important than some people think. Ideas are a dime a dozen. I really do believe that. But validating that idea is extra important. It's the most important, right? Most people don't do it even before they go and raise money, right? They'll just say, I've got this really good idea. I want to do this and I need $1 million because I got to go hire this person and this person and this person. I got to get this prototype in China and I got to do this and I need this tooling, whatever it is. They don't validate enough. And validating means you talk to people about it and you get their opinion. Some people are afraid because they'll think, that they're embarrassed by their idea. They'll think people won't like it. Hey, if people don't like it, don't do it, right? You want to know that people don't like it so you can adjust it and go figure that out. But I talked to a lot of people in my neighborhood. I live in a kind of a ranching community here. After I sold my startup, I came out and I said, hey, we're going to get a little bit of land and, pretend to be a farmer. So I bought a tractor. Anyway, so it's fun and it's mostly just weeding, honestly. We've got some chickens and horses and stuff, but it's anyway. So my wife is very happy with those things. But I started talking to people out here, and most of my neighbors are pretty well off, right? They own construction companies, they own farming companies, a lot of blue collar companies out here, but they're doing 10, 20, 30 million a year in their company. They're killing it, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Employing lots of people. And I would talk to them and say, hey, do you guys use AI much? How are you using it? And they were like, nah, I don't even know. I don't know where to start. I was like, what do you mean? Do you have ChatGPT on your phone? And they're like, nope. I was like, okay, open the App Store, type this in, click download. We're going to do something. And I asked this one construction company owner, super sharp guy, good friend now. And I said, hey, what is something that, that you do often at a construction site that's really complex and, lots of math maybe or something like, ooh, I got it, right? I always trying to figure out how big do our pipes need to be that we're coming in, right? And how much water's going in and outflows and, sometimes with gas and other things, right? And he's like, I know exactly what to ask. And so he types in this complex thing. He's like, there's no way AI can do this. It's too complicated. This usually takes me a few hours to figure out. And I'm like, get ready. Right. And so he types the question in and boom, all of a sudden he's like, it shows all the calculations, all these things. And he's like, this is correct. How this is correct. Anyway. And so I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Use it. Right. And so a couple weeks later, he comes back to me. This is literally in like January of this year. Right. We're October 2nd today. And I know this episode's coming out a little bit after that, but bottom line is this is January, just 9 months ago. A couple weeks later, I asked him, I was like, hey, so how's AI coming along? How are you using it? He's like, I use it 5 times a day. I use it for so many things now. I'm constantly asking it questions. I'm figuring things out. We're doing things. I'm starting to show people. I'm like, okay, this is cool. It's like, there's got to be more businesses out there like this guy. Like he's doing a lot of money. He's making plenty of money, right? He's doing great, but he's working in the like he's way back, right? He's working in the 90s, the 2000s maybe, right? But he's not harnessing AI. And so I had a lot of conversations like that. And I identified that there was definitely a gap in the market for AI awareness or AI readiness. And so I had this idea and I said, okay, ChatGPT, let's talk, right? And let's get on here. Let's see what we can figure out, right? And I talked to a few other, really smart people that I've worked with over the years. And like, I think there is an opportunity here, right? I mean, just go out there and start teaching businesses AI, right? So anyway, in February 27th, it was a Thursday morning, and I just said, okay, what am I going to talk about on LinkedIn today? And I said, what if I've gotten pretty dang good with AI. I'm good at vibe coding now. So I've got this idea around this AI thing. I'm going to try something. So I posted, I said, I'm going to see if I can start coding a piece of software today and get my first paying customer by tomorrow, right? Like entrepreneurship at, warp speed. And so I just got started, right? And I was live blogging about kind of every hour or two. I'd post an update. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'm at. So all day Thursday went to like 10 p.m. and I was just drained. I was so tired by 10 p.m. I was like, okay, I'm done for the day. Friday, get up, get right to business and go all the way until 3 a.m. Right. I worked tons that Friday. It wasn't quite done. I needed to get Stripe set up. I didn't have a way. The product was done at that point, but I needed to get Stripe set up so people could actually pay me. And so I was like, I've never set up Stripe before. And I'm doing this like custom code, all this, and obviously using vibe coding to do it. Saturday, get up, did a few other things. And by 3 a.m., I was finished, right? So 3 kind of long days, really long days, but I was done and I was ready. I launched a Facebook ad to get these customers, right? And then by Tuesday, I had my first customer, right? I had a $15,000 customer. And I had done that because I'm a sales guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I know how to make things happen. And, you can sit around and wait for the Facebook ad to do your job for you. But really, you just got to pick up the phone and find someone, right? And so I found a business I said, hey, I've got this new product. We're going to assess your employees and see how good they are at AI. And then we're going to train them and teach them. And then we're going to certify them. And you're going to have this awesome, an AI ready workforce. And so the sale was easier than I expected. Right. And, within a couple months, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars and many clients working with me. And that worked really well. But the first steps were obviously you got the idea. Then I validated the idea by just talking about it. And when you talk to people about it, it shifts, it changes, it molded, it changed for sure from my original idea. And then even what I launched that Saturday night at 3 a.m., Sunday morning at 3 a.m., what I have today is quite different from what I had then. You got to pivot, you got to listen, but that starts from the very beginning and then you have to keep doing it. And then third, I used these tools that allowed me to just whip it up super fast. And I used for vibe coding for this one, I used Replit, which I really love Replit as a platform. I think it's very, very awesome. It's like there's other ones out there, Lovable and Bolt and things like that. And I think they're good. I think those are fine, but I know how to use Replit really well. And I think personally it's one of the best ones out there. And so I just dove in. I just did it. The other thing I did that I'll say, and then I know I've been talking for a long time, so I'll let you chime back in here, but I gave myself an unreasonable deadline, right? I'm like, I'm going to get my first customer by tomorrow. Most people are like, okay, I'm going to start working on this and I'll finish building it maybe in a couple months here. And then, I'll just play with it. And then, it's 6 months later and they still haven't finished building it.
Yeah,
Right.
they've never executed it. They haven't gotten a deal. You had a hard constraint.
I was just like, I'm going to do this. And not only that, I made it public. I gave
Yeah.
myself some accountability. And people were like, hey, did you get your deal? Did you get your deal? I'm getting DMs, all kinds of stuff. Like, hey, this is fascinating. I'm following along. You got to share, tell me when you get your first deal. I even had people say, hey, I'll be your first customer. Right. And by the way, I wasn't
Yeah.
revealing what I was building yet. I was like, I'm just working on this project. I'll tell you what it is when it's done, when it's finished, whatever. And so maybe I was even a little bit, sheepish about letting people know what I was doing. But I literally had people say, look, I don't even care what it is. I'll be your first customer. And I was like, okay, I get it. Thank you for your support. But that doesn't actually validate my model, right? Because if you're just doing it to support me, that's not sustainable, right? I need to actually see if my product adds value to the market. And the only way to do that is to sell it to a stranger, right? And so that's what I really focused on. So anyway, unreasonable.
What does your business look like now? We'll talk about the tools and all that stuff you use. Replit, you
Mhm.
mentioned one of them, but what does your business look like today? Because it's been iterating, it's been changing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are you selling now?
So my initial idea, and I worked this out, I strategized with ChatGPT for about 3 hours before I even got into the first line of code in vibe coding, right? And the idea that I had worked out was basically, I called it an AIQ test, like an IQ test, but for AI, right? And the idea was, okay, I'm going to get people to take the test. They'll land on the website. Hey, how smart are you? How good are you with AI? Right? Everybody wants to know that. I want to answer that question. So they click on the test. They take the little quiz. It's only 12-question quiz. I'm just kind of an introductory one that's free. And then if they scored poorly, I would then say, hey, looks like you need some work. Here's some training, right? And then if they scored well, you get a 90% or something. Hey, you're actually pretty good with AI. Why don't you just pay for this certification and you can be certified by the General AI Proficiency Institute, right?
Yeah.
And so my whole idea was this standard bearer. Like I was going to be the ACT of AI, right? And the ACT had its first test at some point, and now they've done millions, tens of millions of tests, and that's standard. Oh, that's how you get into college, right? Or the SAT, right? But you're going to be one of those standards. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll get my first one, then my second one, then my 100th one, then my 1,000th one. I'm going to become the standard, right? And so I did that. And I had people start buying these things. And that was cool, right? And they're posting on their LinkedIn, like, hey, I got my certification from the General AI Proficiency Institute. I've had governments call me, like government organizations from different countries call me and say, hey, it looks like you're the standard for AI. We want to test all our people. Can you do that? Yeah, absolutely, we can. Let's go. And so it doesn't matter that I started it 4 months ago or 3 months ago or last week. Who cares? I am being what I set out to be. So that's what I started with. But I would say that product has represented less than 10% of my total revenue so far. What really happened was kind of an interesting pathway. And I don't need to tell maybe the whole story, but I was talking about this, how to build a business in a weekend with a kind of concept. And people were like, hey, could you teach a course? I want to do this. Right? I had people call me and be like, how did you do this? Tell me. And I'd had like an hour-long call with them and like, this is so crazy. I'm going to go try it. I'm going to figure it out. And then more and more people kept asking that. I'm like, I don't have time to talk to everybody. And they said, why don't you just start a course? And I said, that wasn't really my point. That wasn't what I tried to do here. I don't want to be some, course guru guy, because some of those people kind of rub me wrong. I don't think they're bad, but it just wasn't my style. It wasn't what I was trying to do. But I was like, fine. And I put up a course for about $1,000 and filled up, right? 12 spots or something like that. I just made $12,000 in like an hour. That was cool. I wonder if I could do that again, right? And so I put out more dates and I said, and all of a sudden just started filling up, right? And so now, I do that fairly regularly. I was doing it once a week, even at sometimes I was doing it twice a week. Now I'm doing it once a month because I just don't have time. The next product I'm about to tell you about is starting to really take over the business and it's really fun. But anyway, that course, that how to build a business in a weekend with AI is definitely my most popular thing, right? I've had hundreds of people now go through it and it's really, really powerful. People come out. I just finished a cohort yesterday and I had people texting me today saying, that was so incredible. I'm bringing 10 more people. I'm like, my team's going to come. I'm going to bring my brother. I'm going to bring this person, whatever. Anyway, so it's really, really fun. And you come out of that course, you're ready to make a business in a weekend and get your next customer next week. So that's really fun. But the course, sorry, that actually led to me being mentioned by the CEO of Replit on Joe Rogan, on the Joe Rogan show. And so, I had someone text me like, "Hey, did I just hear your name on the Joe Rogan show?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're interviewing the CEO of Replit." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's probably me." Because I had built this whole thing with Replit and I talked about it, and the Replit team heard about it. They'd reached out to me and we'd started kind of collaborating and sharing my story and things like that. I became a piece of marketing material for them, basically.
Yeah, you're their personal brand all of a sudden.
Exactly. So yeah, you maybe have seen my ad out there, just me talking about it on a Replit ad. So anyway, and they've treated me very well, right? I actually haven't gotten paid by them, other than the fact that they'll give me some free credits to use their system, which is great. But I've just been a good partner, right? I'm really not looking to do that, right? I love their product. I think it's awesome. So anyway, I then got hired by a couple really awesome people that are putting together something right now. And today, it hasn't quite been announced yet when we're recording this, but by the time this goes live in a few weeks here, it will be announced. But Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi are launching their own AI training kind of initiatives. And they're doing a book and they're doing seminars and courses and just awesome stuff. And these guys, Dean and Tony aren't AI experts, right? But they're really good reporters. They're really, really good at bringing people together that do know what they're talking about and then putting it in front of millions of people. They're just really, really good at that. And so they said, "Hey, Jon, we love what you've done. Will you come just make sure we're teaching the right stuff? Right? We're talking about the right stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is awesome. I'd love to work with you guys." So they kind of hired me in there, and that's fun. I'm still working on that. And the first event for that is on November 6th, 7th. And so that will be, they'll announce it, like the advertising for that. It'll be a free event, by the way, right? Come to the event. It's totally free, right? If you want to upgrade to VIP, it's $1, right? And then of course, there might be some other things to try to sell you in there. But the point is all of the learning, there's going to be so much free value in there. So definitely come to that. And I've been able to basically just say, "Hey, look, is this the right kind of thing we want to say to these people?" Right. And so that's been really fun. But that then turned into other companies coming and saying, "Hey, could you help kind of guide? I've got 60 employees, we've got 100 employees, we've got 80 employees, and we don't know anything. And we need kind of this ongoing support." And so I decided to launch this fractional chief AI officer product, right? Where I or my team or our team collectively helps train ongoing and be kind of this leadership element inside of a company to help make sure that the company really as a whole doesn't just use ChatGPT, but really like learns how to push AI into every single thing they do. Let's get rid of mundane and repetitive tasks. Let's get rid of things where you're just banging your head against the wall because you have to do that again. You're just like, "Man, is there a way we can automate this? Can AI take this? Can AI help me, write that pitch deck faster, right? Can it help me put out that next report? Can it help me analyze this massive amount of data, and really just kind of making sure that it gets ingrained into companies." And so this ongoing thing, right? That product is really, really taking off. And I've had to now in the last month start hiring people because that's taking off in a big way. And I have to hire more people to be able to deliver. Right. So
Yeah, to deliver the frac. Because now it sounds like you went from like, here's this, I'm gonna call it low ticket, right? The quiz, right? It was there. Then you were like, "Hey, I'm gonna train people on it," and then it's like, "I'm a partner with people to make sure everything is doing it right," and kind of your name's out there. And now you have like a more done for you product, and that's taking a lot more of your time. And that's
and
when you're hiring people.
it's done for you and done with you. I really
Yeah.
try to focus on the done with you. Like I don't want to just come in and be the AI guru that's typing really fast for your
Oh,
company.
for sure.
I want to sit there with you and I might say, "Hey, let's both open up Replit or some system, right? And we're going to build together. And then you're going to know how to move that button and how to add a new functionality here and how to connect that system and whatever, right?" So I'm really trying to enable, right?
Because you don't want to get that text at 10 o'clock at night, like, "Hey, this button's not working. What's going on? We just tried to do this new push."
Most definitely.
Not like that. That's a complete hypothetical, right? That's never happened to
Oh,
agencies.
that has absolutely happened a billion times. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a dev shop, right? I mean, that's really the
Yeah.
straight up answer, right? I'm not, first of all, not a developer, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't want to do that piece, right? I want to enable people. I want to help them expand their capabilities. I want to teach a man how to fish, right? I don't want to just give them the fish.
Well, let's switch gears then here and let's talk about how to teach other people to fish. A lot of people that I've worked with, I've been in like the high ticket coaching space, the consultant
Mhm.
space for a number of years now. And there's some people who hit the six figures and they're like, man, I'm doing great. I'm killing it. But then there's a massive group of people who have kind of gone into the space and they're still struggling to scale their business, get to the six figures, get to the seven figures. And the way I like to think about business, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's several different categories to grow a business, right? There's the awareness part, there's a lead generation, there's a sales, and then there's the fulfillment.
Mm.
In those categories, can you break down the tech stack or the tool set that you would use for someone who's like just struggling in the 50K mark to like actually start getting to that 100 to 200K mark?
Great question, right? And there's obviously, some answers like, are you using high level or you go high level? Are you using, Apollo? Or are you using, different systems like that? But those are the tactical pieces of software. And there's probably 19 different pathways I could tell you, and they're all
Yeah.
right. It's just, be comfortable with? Can you get results from it? Do you know how to use the tools? Where I think you can use AI to really kind of jump ahead and set yourself apart is on the strategy side. And then to actually set yourself apart, you have to execute that strategy that you've worked out, right? But what I really recommend to people is doing things, like I said in the beginning, with unreasonable timelines, right? Ask AI, open for anyone listening to this, whenever you listen to it, as soon as you're done, or pause this thing right now, open ChatGPT, and I want you to say, I want to get 10 new customers by tomorrow. How can I do that? Right? I have 24 hours. I'm doing a sprint and I'm going to get 10 new customers by tomorrow, right? High ticket, low ticket, medium ticket, whatever the heck you want to call it, $1 million contracts, whatever. Okay. How do I do it? And then you got to then don't just listen to ChatGPT. I want you to argue with ChatGPT, and I want you to tell it why that's hard or why you don't think that'll work and how we can adjust it and what are your, and then and another thing I would ask you to do is say, hey, you know what? Here, I want to do this. I want to get this 10 customers in the next 24 hours. And then instead of just having ChatGPT tell you a bunch of stuff, add one more line to that. Say, I want you to interview me one question at a time so that you can understand my business and where I am and what kind of capabilities I have. And then we'll make a plan together. Right. And then it will say, okay, great. Let me ask you your question. Okay. What's your business? Tell me everything you're doing here. Okay, great. Now, what kind of, how many followers do you have on Facebook? How many followers do you have on LinkedIn? How often are you posting? Do you have any ad budget? What do you have? Like, it's going to start asking you all kinds of different things. Once it understands you, then say, okay, great. Now let's put this together into an actionable plan that I can get started on in 5 minutes. Okay. I'm going to get going right on this. And then do what it says, right? Actually do what it says. ChatGPT is more than capable enough to reason and plan and use the ideas that are out there that work for everybody, right? For the Gary V's to the Tony Robbins to the average Jon Cheney, sitting in his office here at home, right? They work. You have to just be willing to do it. And some of them might be kind of scary, right? That's where a lot of people really get nervous, right? Is they say, okay, it told me to post 20 times on LinkedIn over the next 24 hours. And people are like, people are going to get annoyed at me. Who cares? Who cares? Right? Gary
Yeah.
V wrote an
The
amazing.
people who are going to get annoyed are the people who are not going to buy.
Totally. So who cares? They can watch
Yeah.
you make money and they can get annoyed at you making money. But Gary V, he wrote this book, Day Trading Attention. I read it all the time and I'll just open stuff up when I need ideas and things like that. But one of the things he says in this book, he just wrote this, I don't know, last year. It's pretty recent.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. But one of the things he says is like, look, if you're broke and you're trying to get stuff done, you have no excuse. You have absolutely no excuse to not be blowing up every single, especially free channel that you have, right? And I ask people a lot of times in this how to build a business with AI, whatever course, one thing I'll ask when I'm talking about marketing is I'll say, how many of you, raise your hand, if you have posted about what you do for business on your personal Facebook or Instagram page. And most of the time, 0 or 1 person raises their hand.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, why? Are you afraid that people in your social network know that you make money or how you make money or what? Are you embarrassed by what you do for work? If so, you got to deal with that. You got bigger problems first. But seriously, why don't you talk about it? Right? Why don't you talk about it every day? Why don't you talk about it twice a day? Right? On LinkedIn, you can talk about business more, and then vice versa. On LinkedIn, are you talking about your personal? Are you talking about your personal life? Are you talking about how you love to go whitewater kayaking and showing the cool waterfall you went off or this awesome rapid or whatever, right? Is that applicable to LinkedIn, to the business world? Absolutely it is, right? Like occasionally I'll post something like that and they're like, this isn't Facebook. I'm like, yeah, but guess what? I just had 10 kayakers reach out to me. They want to do business with me now. They discovered that I am an AI consultant and teacher and run this business and entrepreneur and all these different things because they know how to kayak. And they saw their favorite boat or like, oh, I've done that route. That's really cool or whatever it is, right? People want to do business with people they like. And so you got to get out there. You got to talk about it. So you want to get customers. You want to go from that 50,000 to the 200,000 to the million, from $1 million to 5 million, from $10 to $100. You got to do massive action now. You have no excuse. There's no reason to wait until next week.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you waiting? Just go do it. And then don't be afraid.
Yeah. Well, and this is why we push podcasting and specifically video podcasting to people. Because when you start to video podcast, you could take all that information, right? Take the transcript, make it into LinkedIn post, make it into Facebook post, take that video, cut it into a whole bunch of reels, then make it into a newsletter, then make it into a blog post. We just start making 10 pieces of items by just one recording. So you're going to see Jon over the next week. Once this thing gets recorded, it's going to be everywhere for a week. And then 3 months from now, it's going to come back, right? Because it's just that's the way it could work. And it's just repopulating content. So people don't feel like, oh man, I get so exhausted. We hear this all the time. They're like, I get so exhausted from having to create content. Well, it's like, make it easy. Use AI, use automation. Like that's all the tools that we created is like, how do we help AI build out this video podcasting platform so it's just easier for people to do it? And it's fun for me. Like I get to hang out with you, Jon, and I get to have all these other people and learn from and listen to and also be able to execute because I'm going out there, I'm doing this stuff and I'm building and creating constantly, but I'm not burning out. I'm using one piece of content. So for you, Jon, I'm curious, what do you do for outreach? Right? Because I think a lot of people, you're telling them, get out there. You're using the organic content methodology, which we use. Right? You're posting out there a lot. But there's another methodology that you can use is kind of doing outreach. Right now, I'm in this new season of trying to figure out how to do a hyper personalized AI while still being authentic when it comes to sales. And I'm trying to navigate that stuff. I'm doing a lot of research. I'm doing a lot of stuff in the background. I'm curious if you're doing anything in that realm with teaching business and building a business with AI.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly using, eating my own dog food for sure. Now, when I post on LinkedIn, Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I actually don't use AI or automation to do that, other than the fact that I'll schedule things out.
Yeah.
Now I know exactly how to tell you how to put together an automated AI creation engine, right? I could be posting 60 times a day if I wanted to. And maybe I should do that. But part of the thing is I don't love AI created content. It's good. I actually know how to train it to be all right and actually to provide value. But I personally want to learn from Ken. I want to learn from Jon, right? I don't want to learn from some AI that Ken or Jon trained. I really want to make sure that it's real. I like the reality
Yeah.
side of things, right? My last startup that I raised $13 million for was actually an augmented reality startup, right? I was in the, so anyway,
The VR space.
Artificial. I was in the AR space and I switched to the AI space, right? So I just like new tech. That's really what it is, right? I just really enjoy it.
Well, and just to clarify there, I think that's why we talk about video podcasting so much because it's like when
Real.
we create all that content, it's from my actual words. It's not like, hey, this is my style. It's like I always tell it, just refine what I said on the podcast for a LinkedIn post. And I edit it, make sure it's like my voice. But you're right. I don't want it to be commodity content. It just linked it. It has to have me. And if it doesn't, I'm not using it. But go on. You were going to talk about
Yeah.
outreach and
So
AI.
here's the recommend, I love Apollo. I just personally use Apollo. And again, I'm not saying that Apollo is the best one out there. It just happens to be what I know how to use well.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but what Apollo does, what Apollo can do is it can automatically identify people, my ICP, it can identify people that I'm trying to target. And it can automatically, like one of their posts. It can automatically add them, right? And so I'm popping up in their notifications a little bit, and then I'm popping up as a new contact, and maybe it can send that first message. But I'm not going to drown them with 5 or 6 or 10 automated messages that clearly are automated. I just don't like that. I just want to
Yeah.
connect. And then when they do connect, I will have the first message say, hey, this is what I'm working on. And I try to ask them a question. Actually, that's my automation, right? I ask them a question about their business or not even about their business. That's actually wrong. About their expertise. Hey, I'm trying to work on something related to this. What would you do here? You know, that kind of a question. I'm asking for a little bit of help. And if they respond, then I'll actually get into that conversation with them, because I do try to genuinely get out there and be interested in them. And then again, that requires maybe more manual work than a lot of other people are trying to do. They're trying to automate everything, and they automate going back and forth and it doesn't work, right? You got to have authentic relationships. And if max out your time, you got to hire somebody, right? And you got to hire somebody to do that and to manage that with you. And you can do that, right? You can hire a VA out of the Philippines or here in the US or whatever the heck you want to do, right? But that authentic communication back and forth really, really helps. That's I would say that I get 15% of my deals using that kind of an automation strategy. You wouldn't believe it, but 85%, the other 85% is inbound, right? And it's from content. I'm constantly putting value out there. And it's not that I'm saying, hey, I do AI, come work with me, right? I'm saying, hey, do you see this new AI trick? Try this and you're going to save a lot of time, right? Hey, have you tried this new platform? Hey, have you tried this? Hey, have you tried this, right? Hey, do this thing. I think that people should be using this, right? I'm just giving free value constantly, right? But I do it very consistently, so much so that I'm like a newsletter. People are expecting it from me, right? It's out there always. And so I'll have people reach out to me and say, hey, I've been following you for a few months and I've tried a lot of the things that you've put out there. And after 90 days of them seeing, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I'm the expert, right? I am, I follow Gary Vee because I believe he knows what he's talking about. Why? Because he is constantly experimenting, trying, doing, talking about it. And I see him everywhere, right? Or you take maybe like Neil Patel, right? With his marketing and everything he's doing, right? I know the name because he's out there, right? Tony Robbins is talking about this, and Dean Graziosi is talking about that, and so is talking about this. Dan Martell is talking about buy back your time. And his message just is out there so much that I know this right now. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey, you know what, Dan, I think I want to partner with you on something, right? And I think you might be the right guy. And so I'll reach out to Dan Martell and say, hey, let's work on something together here. Or whatever, right? But I have people reach out all the time that just say, I've been following you for a while and I really resonate with what you're saying. Right? And the cool thing about that is it brings the right people to you. They self-select. Instead of me trying to use all LinkedIn's and Facebook's and meta ads and all these targeting capabilities, trying to guess who's the right person, I just put so much content out there, and I follow some strategies to make sure that it gets seen too. That's one thing that's important. I post at the right time. I say it in the right way. I format it in the right way that allows the LinkedIn algorithms to push it out there to the right people. And that then pulls people in. So yeah, there's a lot of tools out there. You can set up the automation, but I personally have found the most value in generating content that then turns into really solid inbound leads.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And especially because, one of the things that we talk about a lot is human first, then AI driven, right? Because we want to make sure we're still authentic. I get those same automations from AI, from people on LinkedIn, especially where I'm
I
like,
just
wow,
hate it. Yeah.
yeah. I'll get sometimes emails where they'll be like, you're in the healthcare industry. I'm like, I've never worked in the healthcare industry. There's nothing in my resume that would even indicate that I'm in healthcare. And I told them, like, I get it. I appreciate the hustle. So I'll respond back to them and I'll say, hey, listen, whatever you're using, stop it because it's not working. And I've been in sales for 15 years. Like, let me give you some tips. Like, I have like a template now that I just share with people all the time because it's typically the same issue that they have. Man, Jon, you've mentioned so far, you use Replit, Apollo, ChatGPT. Before we wrap up here, is there any other toolkit or AI tools that you're using right now that really are helping you strategize and execute the tactical stuff?
All right, here's my AI, here's my workflow, here's my things, right? I
Yeah.
call them my employees,
I
right?
love-
They're AI, right? And I do have obviously other employees, but especially when I didn't have other employees until, I'm not kidding you, a few weeks ago, right? Like this business was taken all the way to $10 million. And I know it's worth $10 million because I've sold equity in it, right? At that valuation, right? And so I now have an investor. And I really didn't want investors for this, but it just kind of happened. And the guy is awesome. And he kind of begged me. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Right. And so I took on a little bit of money, and I don't plan on doing that too much because I don't need it, right? I'm generating so much cash. I am cash flow
Yeah.
positive. I have not needed to raise money. I simply got it because someone just like, please take my money so that you can turn it into money. Anyway, so that's fun. But here's the toolkit, right? My project manager is ChatGPT. My project manager is great at strategizing. And I say project managers because on the ChatGPT interface, there's one thing you can do is you can have projects, and you start a project, and then every conversation that I have related to that business idea or that topic or that project is in that folder. It's in that project. And so it remembers everything that I've ever talked about. And so when I say I need this, I need to help me write a contract, or I need to do this, or I need to adjust something, or I need to check on, a client, or I need to put a presentation for this thing that really focuses on these things, it knows everything. It remembers everything, right? So ChatGPT is an awesome project manager. For market research, Grok. Grok is my friend. Why is Grok good at market research? And even before, even when you're trying to validate your idea, it has access to the billions of tweets that happen every day. It knows what people are talking about. ChatGPT does not have access to that. Claude does not have access to that. Perplexity does not have access to that. It can't search live tweets. Grok can. That is a big advantage for Elon and team. Right? I don't care if you like Elon or not. There's real people on X. And you might not know this, but if you actually do the research, X is the most balanced politically. It's almost 50-50 Republican, liberal, conservative, right? Republican, Democrat, right? It's almost exactly split down the middle. A lot of people think it's more, on the conservative side, just for whatever reason, even though it used to be heavily liberal, right? Just based on ownership and things like that. But it's
Yeah.
actually at this point really, really split down the middle. And so you can get, it's really split down the middle with women and men, split down the middle with conservative and more liberal and those types of things. So you want all of those opinions. They're all going to be your customers, right? Doesn't matter who they voted for. You want to provide them a solution that works for them. And so do your market research on X. And so a lot of times I'll build a strategy on ChatGPT, and then I'll take it to Grok and say, what do you think? What does the market think about this? What are people saying about this? Right. And I'll get really good feedback. And then I'll go back and I'll adjust my strategy in ChatGPT. Right. So I've now built this nice kind of workflow. Okay. Then when I need my agent to just do stuff for me. I've got a really complex thing. I need to, pull or do a bunch of research and find a bunch of leads, or I need to go through a document and reformat things that would normally take me hours to do or something like that. I'm going to Manus. Manus is an all-purpose agent that can go out and do just incredible things. So I love that one. Then when I'm ready to build some sort of tool or some sort of automation or something like that, or a piece of software, or maybe I need a landing page or a funnel or whatever it is, right? It used to be like, oh, I'm going to go to Russell Brunson for the funnel, and I'm going to go
Yeah.
to Wix for the website, and I'm going to go to this for that and whatever, right? Now I'm doing it all in Replit, right? I go to Replit and say, I need a page for this. And 2 minutes later, it's done. 5 minutes later, it's done, right? Or at least the first version is, and I can maybe tweak it for another hour or so. And I've got this new thing. If I'm building a really complex piece of software with admins and users and all these different things, it might take me a few days, right? But again, a few days, maybe $100 as compared to what it used to take, which was months or even a year and tens of thousands or 20,000 or 50,000 paid to a dev shop and, out in Ukraine, and you're trying to work on this and they don't understand it. They don't quite see your vision. That's the
Oh
old
yeah.
way to do things,
I
right?
was working with a company that they were trying to do an app and it was going to cost like 100,000 just for the startup of it. That's not
Totally.
the finished product. It was just that I'm
No,
like,
it's
ooh,
just to see, you know, with my last company, Seek was the name of my company that I founded back in 2016. And, I had to go raise $500,000 before I even knew if my idea was good,
yeah,
right? How risky is that for all of my investors? How risky is that for me as the CEO? What if it doesn't work? Now I got a bunch of people
yeah,
mad at me, right? Now you can go prove your idea. You can build the MVP. You can get it in front of customers, get your first dollars and say, hey, this is actually worth it. Maybe now I can go raise $500,000 if I want to build it that way and I want to actually go do that. That's totally fine. I still think developers play a very important role in our business world, right? But man, you don't have to do that anymore. So,
so you were at Manus and then
yep, Manus, then
anything
Replit.
else?
Yep, then
Yeah,
Replit. So Replit's for, Replit's my developer, right?
yeah,
And how hard is it to use Replit? It's not. Talk to it just the way you would talk to your developer, right? Hey, I need you to build this. Hey, I don't like that button. When I click this, it does this, but I would rather it do this. Those are the same things you would say to a human developer. Say those things to Replit and you will build awesome stuff. Takes time to figure it out a little bit, but
yeah.
you can do it, right? Then my graphic designer, I'm usually between ChatGPT, Canva, and Midjourney. Right, ChatGPT
Okay.
is great at kind of giving you some ideas, and it can even help you build good prompts for Midjourney. Midjourney, I think, creates the best, most richest images. It's so powerful. Really love it. And then when I need to take that image and maybe add some text to it or something like that, ChatGPT is pretty good at that these days. But if you want to have really good finite control, go to Canva. Canva
Yeah.
is still awesome. Canva has its own AI features as well, but I usually end up creating an idea in ChatGPT, making it better in Midjourney, and then finalizing it in Canva. That's my graphic design team, right? Those are the things I'm using there. There's a lot of other things. If I need accounting help with AI, I'm going to go to Zenny. And Zenny is actually a monthly service that can be your CFO, but it's an AI powered one. It's really, really awesome. And I could keep going on all these different things. But if you just start with ChatGPT and Grok, right? ChatGPT is your project manager. Grok's going to help you with market research and developing ideas even more. You're going to use Manus to get crazy stuff done. And you can the sky's the limit with Manus. And you just have to kind of go there and play around with it. Replit for anything software, website related. And then graphic design, which you do a lot of when you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Preparing posts or preparing things or preparing an ad or whatever it is, right? Then you're going into ChatGPT, Midjourney, and Canva. So that's probably a good place for you guys to start. If you're already doing all those things and you want more, reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll chat.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, John, you are very accessible on LinkedIn. I think we were in a comment thread and you posted something and I'm like, this sounds awesome. You should be on my podcast. And you're like, let's do it. And we just started engaging pretty
Yeah.
quickly, man. So I love it. Have you tried using Nano Banana, Gemini's graphic design?
Yeah. Nano Banana is a
So,
lot of fun. And I actually have, I pay something like $250. So I have access to Veo 3 as well. I pay $250 a month. I don't use it as much as I probably should just because I already have this kind of workflow that I'm good with. But man, Nano Banana's capabilities are
yeah.
crazy. They're awesome.
The other one that I think you might like too, um, outside of Canva is Adobe Express's AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that we recommend because it adjusts. You know how like when you're trying to post on Facebook or social media, you need a certain resolution or a thumbnail. AI generates the rest of it, which is awesome, and then you can still put text and all that stuff. So, something that Canva still can't do, and other ones
Right.
aren't
No,
doing
totally.
as well.
Yeah, it can expand that thing. It's very cool. I've used
So
Runway. Runway ML is another one that can do stuff like
okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. There's so
So
many
all right,
tools, right? You just have to like pick one and learn it, right? And they're all good.
exactly.
You don't have to be like, oh, am I using the best tool? Doesn't matter. Are you using a tool that gets the job done that you understand? That's what matters. And then just do
Yeah,
it. Just don't
and
get
don't
lost in that.
overanalyze it.
Exactly.
And we tell this to a lot of solopreneurs, especially when they're thinking about podcasting. They're like, should I do this? I'm like, look, if you like being on camera, if you like creating content, this is the best way, right? Because it's going to help solve so many other issues down the road. If that's not your style of marketing and all you like doing is writing, don't do it because you're not going to hit record, right? So, like, and the same thing with all these AI tools. Just pick something and go with it. It's probably going to save you time and money if you just execute on it versus thinking about it a ton of times.
Just get in
Even
there, play with it,
just get
right?
in
Make it
there.
a game, make it fun, right? Make it fun, play with it, try things. Oh, this is cool. I wonder if I can do this, right? And you just start experimenting and playing. That's when the magic gets unlocked.
Yeah, absolutely. Jon, as we wrap up this conversation, I'm sure you and I can talk about this for hours and days. For those solopreneurs who hear all this, they're motivated, they're like, I know I need to take action. What's one quick encouragement you can give them to just make sure they actually take the step forward and do the things that we've talked about today?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm just going to say it again. Get on ChatGPT, give yourself an unreasonable goal. Like, hey, I want to build a new business idea in the next hour. And then do it, right? I want to find 10 more customers in the next 24 hours or in the next week. I don't know. Maybe you're afraid of 24 hours. Start with the next week and then do those things. Strategize with AI and then execute. Execute means stand up and go, right? Or pick up the phone and start calling. The worst thing you can do is to just have these ideas and then not execute on them, right? Michael Scott is, known for a really great quote that he actually stole from Wayne Gretzky, right? And it's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Like I used to have a poster on that in my office. I need to get a new one. It got crumpled up, whatever. I need to just order a new one and frame it so that it doesn't get broken, right? But that is, I think that all the time. The worst thing that can happen when you post 20 times on your LinkedIn is nobody responds. That's the worst thing that can happen. And I promise
Yeah.
the sun will come up the next day, right? You're going to be fine. Okay. But you got to get out there and just do it. Whatever it is, that extreme thing that a lot of action in a short time can change your life. I am living proof of that. I know that that is true, and I continue to do it. And when I'm hiring these people now, I'm like, hey, you're going to do this stuff too. You're going to try to get 100 customers in the next 30 days, and maybe you only get 7, but each of those 7 is worth $200,000 a year. So you're going to bring $1 million of business on in the next 30 days. That is possible. That is 100% possible with the world that we're in right now. Maybe you're not doing what I'm doing. You're doing what you're doing, but the other thing is most people still are not doing this. If you use AI to create unreasonable results, people are going to notice because you're way outperforming everyone around you, right? So use AI, come up with a strategy and do it, execute it. Get up, do it, make the phone call, send the text, post the thing, whatever it is, go make it happen.
Go make it happen, man. I'll end it right there. For those of you guys, make sure you reach out to Jon. Jon, you're on LinkedIn. Anywhere else they could reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on at Chenney Piano is my handle on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, whatever, right? Connect with me on any of those. So Cheney is Cheney and then piano because I've got a piano behind me and I'm a pianist. I love that, right? So at Cheney Piano. And then on LinkedIn is Jon Cheney, right? Just find me. Jon, no H. Why is there a silent H in it, right? Jon, Jon Cheney, come and find me. I would love to chat, would love to connect and see if we can add value to each other's lives.
Absolutely. And I'll put all those on the show notes as well. Jon, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And for those of you listening, man, hopefully this would be encouraging to you. I know I'm encouraged. Jon's been a great mentor. He's been already a great friend and an acquaintance, right? Like you've done so much to just provide value on LinkedIn. So I tell people, go reach out to him, start connecting with him and start picking his brain because I'm sure he'd be more than willing to help. Jon, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. For those of you who have been watching, man, make sure to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you next time on Solo Scaled.